Well, we want to welcome you today to our second webinar in this particular series and talking about FedEx and contractors and drivers and peak season and all the great things that come with it. And it seems to be a huge topic right now that people are very concerned about that has to do with whether or not there will be a peak season, especially when it's coming to hiring and how busy we will be and if there's going to be opportunities going into the first quarter. So a little bit about my company and my colleague that has joined me, Scott Stewart, on this webinar series today is Master Staff has been around for 23 years. And in that amount of time, we have placed over 35,000 people in jobs all over the country and in Canada. And we have weathered a lot of storms. We're a WBE certified corporation, so we meet all supplier diversity requirements. And we have supply chain third-party logistics experience for almost the entire time of the 23 years. Scott is going to introduce himself. He comes and runs our division nationwide and in Canada that involves P&D, operations managers, drivers, anything that's third-party logistics in general, and the entire FedEx account that we have. So Scott, if you would like to introduce yourself and just kind of share everybody a little bit with your background, and then we can hop right in.
Hey everybody, good to be back with everyone again. Scott Stewart here. Like Jennifer said, I started the FedEx Logistics, Master Staff Logistics side that primarily focuses on FedEx, but other carriers, all independent carriers as well. We can handle any of those tough jobs for you as far as recruiting drivers, any kind of staff. We're here to help any facet that you need. I've been doing it for several years now, and the reason we started this webinar was to expense some of that logistics knowledge. We know that times are kind of tough right now on people and on some of the small independent companies, and we wanted to be able to give that help at a really decent cost, and provide you with some knowledge. That way, hopefully you could take the ball yourself and run with it.
That's wonderful. And that is, like you can hear from Scott from his experience and stuff, why he's a part of this team and is leading that division for us. So he comes with so much knowledge and insight on the day-to-day basis. So I think you'll find all of the opinions and facts that he brings forth today of such value. And so just kind of hopping in here, the big question is, will there be a strong peak season? And the answer is yes, relax. Yes. Without a doubt. There will be a strong peak season for 2022, and it will launch us into 2023. People are going to buy presents and buy gifts, and they're going to need items as we move forward into the holidays. And so I want to kind of jump in and talk about the points we're going to go over. There are five major points we're going to cover in the short amount of time that we are able to be with you today. The first is talking about how this industry is recession-proof, that trucking industry is recession-proof, to kind of help put your mind at ease of the relaxed part of what we're talking about. That FedEx only has two major competitors, so we're going to survive, and they also specialize in things that other people do not do in this industry. That Christmas is going to be here. I think we're like 5 weeks away, maybe 6 weeks away from Christmas, and we're going to be the ones that deliver the packages. The supply chain, FedEx, that's how they're going to get to everybody. And that we have to combat the recession head on, and why we shouldn't be stopped spending, whether we are individuals or a company. And then considering the types of employees that we can hire, meaning the creative ways that we do scheduling and how we bring people in and classify them to allow for a more diverse workforce of people that are happy. So Scott, I'm going to jump in here and let you and talk about how when we hire, we want to maintain our contracts. And this is a time when people are a little skittish and they don't know if they really want to hire. So I was hoping that maybe you could kind of share what you're seeing out there and why you feel that that's important, that they continue to do that even when they're hearing things aren't so good, even though we're trying to tell them that they are.
You got to keep headstrong in this business. Like Jennifer said, the trucking industry is not going anywhere. It's a recession-proof industry. How do goods get from coast to coast? Trucks. It's not planes. It's trucks. They're going to get your frozen foods. They're going to get your sporting goods. They're going to get your heavy equipment. I mean, the trucks are the way that's going to have that. We got to have drivers. You got to have drivers for that truck. So the smartest contractors out there are going to continue to hire. They're going to keep hiring through the recession. It's the easiest way to combat it. And you're going to come out the other side a better company. by building the team through the recession like that and through down times. You're going to build a stronger team on the back end of it, I promise.
And Scott, you've seen that more often than not, haven't you, in the last even few months, of how people are really looking to bring individuals in that strengthen their team to be able to create some return on investment and be able to also in turn give some, I would say, some calmness to those looking for work and some stability.
Jen, you're a business owner. Nobody wants to continue the hiring process. You would rather just hire a team and then move on. Training the team and making the
Yeah,
team better.
right.
Nobody wants to continue hiring. You don't want to hire somebody, train, and then have them leave. And you got to hire and train. That's how you get turnover at 100%. You just don't want to do that. That's number one. That takes away the time from the small company owner. You can't focus on your business. You can't focus on making money and making the profit you need to make.
Oh,
So
no.
the focus needs to be up front. The focus needs to be building a strong enough team where you let the team handle it and you're not worried about losing people. That is the ultimate goal of a small business.
And you hit the nail on the head with that, because it kind of falls into this whole next category that we're going to talk about, the trucking industry and economic downturns, because this is where you get one of two sets of mind. You either, and that is with either if I'm looking for a job or I'm the contracting company, you're either going to get where people are going to hire like we're talking about, and they have positions and people are excited to look for new opportunities, or you get the other side where we're in fear. I'm leaving because I'm worried this company might shut down and I'm out there looking, or I'm a company that just freezes and says, okay, everyone else thinks it's going to be bad, so maybe I shouldn't do anything. And then there ends up being, when you have those kinds of reactions to something, it causes other things to happen and they're not always good. So it builds us into this, which I was just going to introduce this topic a little bit and let you expand upon it, Scott, is that the trucking industry, why it's always recession proof, because it doesn't matter what's going on with the economy, goods and services have to be delivered. And we experienced that more than anything during COVID. The supply chain kind of got exposed a little bit during that time, that maybe we needed to upgrade some of the things that are in the supply chain, because that was the lifeline of everything that was needed at that time. It was a way everybody was getting, from food and medicine and whatnot. And so even in the worst time when things were shut down, that supply chain was still rolling. And you saw that more than anything with how the different industries that FedEx serves, that they were going like gangbusters. I bet you can share too how many different positions that you saw out there that people were hiring for and continue to hire for.
Yeah, tons. I mean, if you're in the trucking industry, logistics, and you made it through COVID, you've made it through the tough part. Recession is recession. It's a downturn in the economy, but that doesn't mean the economy is going to shut down. If you made it through COVID, COVID was the test. It was the ultimate test. If you made it out of that, you're good. You're gonna make it through. There'll be tough times. You'll have to hold the wallet. You'll have to secure, right, possibly secure additional funds. But overall, you'll be fine. Recession proof. Ultimately, if you look at it, I remember. I mean, I was sitting here hiring drivers, struggling just like everybody else was through COVID, but the one thing that kept you alive was the trucking companies. If you remember back, even the news organizations, and they made it well known, hey, we need to thank our truckers. Our truckers are the ones getting the job done. And that's absolutely correct. They were the ones that were still out there driving products cross country and doing what they need to do to stock the store shelves. That's still got to happen. We shop for groceries every week. So there's got to be products and services there for us. So just take your mind off of it. It's going to be okay. Trucking industry, if any industry is recession proof.
And that alludes to what you're talking about, like how they're thanking their truckers. It seems like an obvious thing, but I think when we get into panic mode, we forget that it is not looked upon as the obvious thing sometimes. When people are like, how are we going to get things where they go? It's trucks. This goes to exactly what you're saying, Scott. This is why we're saying it's recession proof to be in this industry. And so those of you that have companies that are watching, and those of you that are looking for new opportunities, if there's any place that you want to be in the next 10, 15 years, this is where you want to be. And that kind of leaps us into this next part of our topic, as Scott and I had talked about this a little bit about competitors, because I always think that when you're looking for a new position, or you're looking at, do I want to hire more people into my company? What are my competitors doing, right? And so this is where FedEx is just standing its ground amongst all of its competitors, because there's really only two true main competitors of FedEx. And with FedEx holding exclusive critical contracts that are their lifeline, which of course they used tremendously during COVID, you can see why it's here to stay. It's a $10.5 billion contract they have with the United States Postal Service. And, you know, making FedEx Express the world's largest express transportation company, we put that in here so that you could see it in writing, so that you understand the importance if you are a FedEx contractor or you're working with companies contracting with FedEx, that you're in good hands. And Scott, you have seen things in this supply chain as hiring everywhere, but you've seen where FedEx has grown exponentially with that.
Yeah, facts for FedEx contractors. FedEx has been around for 50 years, almost to the day. Started in 1973. So it was ahead of its time when it started. It really, like you said, only has a couple of different competitors. UPS is a major competitor, obviously, but they have a different setup in a couple different ways. Amazon is big. Amazon has their niche in today's society. But guess who brought along Amazon? FedEx and UPS brought along Amazon.
Right.
You know, Amazon would never be a thing if if FedEx didn't show the way. USPS, you mentioned the big contract. USPS is a thing of the past, honestly. If they get anything that they have to deliver other than envelopes, they're gonna contract that and send it through FedEx. So for all you contractors out there, FedEx is not going anywhere. FedEx is a staple of America. It's gonna have its tough times like anybody else, but it's a staple in this country. A lot of people will raise their hand on DHL. DHL is more of a European driven. They used to be in the States, but they're more of a European and international driven competitor to FedEx. But here in the States, it's FedEx Ground, FedEx Air, it's FedEx in general. We are not going anywhere. We are here to stay. You are stable.
And you know, that's probably who you're gonna have bring you your Christmas, especially the closer it gets, right, Scott? Because if we're shopping at the last minute, let's face it, you're probably gonna have to have it shipped ground, like 2-day ground, 3-day shipping.
Sure.
Obviously, there's air too, which of course involves, people forget the trucking industry because somebody's got to take the loads off the planes and get them out to where they need to go. So this kind of brings us to why Scott and I thought that this was such a great topic. Scott actually brought this topic up to me. I can't take credit for it. He can, because he thought, you know, this is a big deal, that people are worried if there's going to be a peak season or not. And we wanted to share this with you. Scott found this on retaildive.com, talking about our holiday spending and the online holiday spending, which of course means if you're spending online, internet fulfillment centers are going to be extremely busy, you know, using contractors and supply chain and FedEx Ground shipping packages to you, right? Because you're shopping online. So the industry analysts predict that while online shopping is projected to increase from last year, retailers could face more risk than they anticipate. And what that basically means is that people are just out there shopping online more, which is exactly what Scott and I were talking about. And I'm sure you'd love to talk a little bit more about that too, Scott, since you were the one that brought that topic up.
Yeah, Adobe, everybody can trust Adobe. It's one of the major, software companies in the country. Says that according to their research, 2021 was 204 billion in retail shopping. 2022 is going to be almost 210 billion in internet shopping and Christmas shopping. A lot of you might be surprised to hear that, but that's, I see it more and more. Yes, here's the facts. Yes, we're in a downturn. Okay. But retailers also still need to make a profit as well. So what I'm seeing, and what I think a lot of other people are seeing, is retailers are discounting huge going into the holiday season. We're right in front of Black Friday here. And Black Friday, I'm seeing 90%, 80%, 70% sales. So they realize that the consumer has less money than they did last year, but they're going to make their goods a little more reasonably priced this year, which is going to hopefully drive market share and shopping, internet shopping this year in 2022. So there will be packages there to deliver. And to be honest with you, I've still had plenty of contractors calling me needing drivers and hiring. So the smart contractor is continuing to push through the downturn. That's what the smart contractors do. Smart business owners continue to hire, continue to spend, through the downturn, you'll end up a better company on the other end. And I wanted to mention something kind of funny from the last clip we had. All FedEx contractors, if you start to lose faith in FedEx ever, just pop Castaway, the movie, on with Tom Hanks, because that is
point.
Watching that from the beginning of Castaway. There was a lot of truth in that. They live by time. Time is everything to FedEx and these package deliverers. The trucks have to be there on time. They have to be at the destinations on time with the packages to get them into the airport, get them on the planes, and get them international. It's a beautiful thing to watch come together. So if you ever lose faith in FedEx, just put Castaway on and watch. I think it's a great tale of exactly what FedEx does.
I like where you went with that, Scott. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite movies. And
Yep.
and it just kind of goes to show that no matter what happens, it always had that message, like you said, like you could persevere. And this is kind of what we're talking about, because everyone is kind of, for the lack of a better analogy, freaking out, or a term to describe it, about this. And what you and I see working in the supply chain, and even specifically, obviously, we're talking about FedEx today in this part of our series, is just moving on forward. I mean, I honestly, even though, like, Scott had mentioned talking about, face it, we're in a downturn. I think that downturn is from other people talking about what they see on a different scale of whatever it is they're managing. What we see in our world of supply chain is like, I wouldn't know the difference between now and 6 months ago. So, and that is why, like Scott was saying, even though they're saying that, I've got people hiring drivers every day now. So obviously, if they're hiring drivers, they have a need. And again, I want to reiterate, not just even in the driver section, but before we jump into this, to the business owners and the contractors that are hiring the drivers, this is why we're saying, don't stop hiring. Don't react to the news that's out there. React to what's going on in your business specifically. And this comes into like us delivering these packages. So, Scott and I alluded to this a little bit earlier about last minute shopping. And there's personal items that come from all over the world. And again, going back into feeling good about what's going on right now with peak season. And how you shop for yourself and your family. This is just going to continue, and it's not going to stop. And it leads us into the last part of this that is important to both of us, and that's about don't stop spending and face the recession head on. Scott and I, if you look at this, you'll see Steve Jobs right here, and he says, hiring the best is your most important task. And this is something that Scott and I are very passionate about, and telling companies when things start to get tough. The first thing you do when you hear about anything is like, okay, let's stop hiring people. But if you're actually not seeing things go away, your shipments are still going out. The people are still ordering. And it's not just you and I ordering, it's companies, it's the cold storage, the food, whatever. There's all kinds of things that are shipped via FedEx and or any kind of company in the supply chain, that you need to be remembering that spending is important, hiring the best is important. And this is a time, and Scott, I'll kind of throw it over to you in a minute, but this is the time when other people may be skittish or letting go of their people, you should be snatching them up. This is a time that you want to bring in to get the best people, because you're going to get the best return on investment, especially going into the first, second quarter of 2023. And so don't react, be proactive. And now's when you should be spending and trying to get the good hires in, and look to see who's out there that would be a great person to bring in, and keep pushing along. And Scott, I'm sure you can give some examples of that, of what you've seen.
Yeah, during a downturn like this, there's a lot of companies that are going to freak out and stop hiring and let people go. Well, guess what? They're letting really good quality people go, and quality drivers. And so those people are out there. In fact, I've got a story just from this morning. I had a young lady contact me on one of my ads that I have out in Denver, Colorado, and she said, me and my son live in the Springs, Colorado Springs, which is, if you're in that area, about an hour, maybe a little over an hour away. And I expressed to her that it was the position we were hiring for was a P&D, pickup and delivery FedEx position. And she was quite a ways away. They're going to have to drive in and out every day. And she expressed to me her experience. And she said, I was with the company. They let me go. They let my son go. We really want to get to work, and we are ready to roll. So she almost refused to let me tell her no, to be honest with you. And I checked her experience. Her experience is significant. And that's just the type of driver. some company, hopefully it's the one I'm hiring for, but some company is going to snatch that mother and that son up and turn out to have two wonderful drivers and team members for the future. Where one company just was, I'm not even going to use that analogy, but one company is going to let them go, and another company is going to pick them up and pick up
Right.
two gems right there in drivers. And when the year turns next year and everything brightens up, guess who? Guess who's going to have two great drivers on their team?
Absolutely.
You know, and it's just, you have to keep your eye open for good talent. Do not stop spending. You got to push through a recession, a downturn by spending. Spend money. Spend money. It will come back to you, I promise, in folds.
And that was a perfect example of that. That's amazing that happening this morning, because I think people that are running their companies in fear, or it's not just the individuals that are companies themselves, but it's individuals that may be reacting in fear. I don't know if this company is going to be around, that are jumping ship. That's where you want to like scoop them up. And some things is like what we talk about, like when the word recession is coming, as you can see in the slide, and start circling, and not making decisions based on what people are saying, because fear is what rules the economy. So you start saying things, people believe it's like manifesting it into happening. And obviously there are things going on, but they don't, but you can control your environment and your world. And so, some examples of weathering a storm, when you start hearing those things, is looking to service industries that are recession proof and diversify your client base. And we talked about, Scott and I, the cold storage industry, mentioned it earlier in this discussion, is that cold storage deals with food and medicine, right? So no matter what's going on in the world, you need to eat and you need medicine. So if you can focus some of your efforts in those areas and diversifying your client base, that's really helpful. Showing your current clients and employees their worth. And Scott, the last two, I mean, you can talk about even more depth about hiring the best. That's what we were just saying.
Yeah, I mean, they're out there. So, in our last session, our last webinar session, we talked a lot about team building. If you hire right and build the right team, you won't have to hire anymore. Right. You go through one stage of hiring and that's it. You keep your team, and then it's all about retention at that point in time. And you can only add to your team during a time of recession, because there are great people out there that just lost a job and are ready and willing to go to work and will treat you right. And I promise we'll do a great job for you. So push. Where others drop and stop spending money, you need to keep spending money.
And that's a perfect segue, Scott, into this last part of what we're talking about, is be creative with hiring with innovative concepts. That's exactly what Scott's saying. We thought this was kind of fun, but I mean, wasn't fun to the person that this happened to in the slide, but it's very interesting what it says on the side of this truck, right? It says, on the road to success, there are no shortcuts. And I think that when you talk about
You're
that,
trying to take a shortcut, it looks like.
That's right. Yeah. See, yeah. And so it's funny because when you go through, talking about this, like we talk about categories of employees, and we touched on this a little bit at the beginning. We were going over our agenda for today and covering this part of it. When we say categories of employees, is we talk about how we need to be unique in how we hire. So you can exclude an amazing group of individuals because you think you have to run your shifts a certain way. And that is what happens. Like, you're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's supply chain, right? But at the same time, maybe there's a group that you could get that if they worked 4 hours here and then 3 hours here, or maybe they just want to work on weekends, or maybe they just want long hauls, or maybe they don't care about line haul, they don't care where they go, and they're on call. And Scott, you've seen that quite a bit, the creativeness that's been out there by companies right now, extending unique schedules and whatnot so they can capture the best people.
Once again, hitting on a topic that we talked about in session one, that there's a lot of great drivers and great workers out there that don't want to work full time anymore. So businesses need to be flexible and open up and say, hey, you want seasonal work? Okay, I'll bring you in to do seasonal work. Or you want part time? You want to make 3 runs a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? Okay, we can accommodate that. You need to be flexible, and we can always adjust the pay scale. Okay, we can always be flexible. You can maybe deduct a couple of benefits here for those people. Maybe they've got another full-time job that they have benefits at. So we have to be flexible. We have to not, hey, I need this to fit into this box all the time,
right.
And if I don't have that, I got to kick them to the curb. No, let's flex the box. Let's see if we can get one that's rectangle, and let's see if we can get one that's a little bit bigger. Let's fit a triangle in there. I mean, let's reshape what we do as business owners a little, and it doesn't hurt to cater to the market every now and then. Right now we're sitting in a driver's market. A driver can sit back and choose whether they want to go to work or not, to be honest with you. And we have to be flexible. We have to make it worth their while. You can still find a lot of good people out there, but we have to be flexible. Be flexible.
I think that you said it beautifully when you were talking about look at the shape of the box. I thought that was a great
Yeah.
way to look at that. And we talked about like you just said, the unique schedules, teaching your management how to manage unique schedules. That's another thing, because the benefit you're going to get is tenfold. The weekend only, the on-call, peak only, and daily attendance and awards. I mean, that the rewards and you've seen quite a few of incentives that have gone out there that have been kind of really creative, Scott, I know over the last, couple months. And so we want to encourage companies to do that and make sure that you're expanding your horizons because it's only going to create a better return on your investment. And I want to just thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to have Scott say a few more words too before we go, but I want to know sincerely that from myself and Scott that this series has been an absolute joy to do. We love our topics. We want you to contact us and let us know if you have additional topics you'd like us to cover. And next week, we're going to continue this series in a part of 4. And hopefully we're giving you some additional knowledge and skills so that you can master hiring drivers today in the market.
Yeah, Jennifer, thanks. I want to leave everybody, our guests with us today and the guests that will see us in the future. I know we focused a lot on FedEx today, and for good reason. We handle a lot of FedEx contractors, but for you independent contractors who have 2 trucks and are running hard to capture your contracts, we're there for you too. Okay. So you can make it. Don't stop spending money. Okay. If you're that small independent contractor, you can make it through a time like this. Don't just fold up and run. That's not the way this thing works. Let's get down to it.
Wisdom to impart.
Right, exactly. Spend the money. And I promise you, I've seen it 100 times. Your company will come out stronger on the other end. And when everything blossoms and the market opens up, you'll be in such a strong position. You'll almost have no competitors. Okay. So
absolutely. And you need to remember it from exactly what Scott's saying is keep the vision on your company and what you're doing and keep the noise out. Stay focused on what you're doing, keep the noise out, and make decisions based on what's best for your company and what's best on everybody else.
Right. Thanks, Jen. I had fun today.
Thanks, Scott. So much. Had a great time. Always love doing these with you and look forward to hearing from all of you soon and seeing you next week in our next series.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.